Well, hello, friends. How are we doing today? Hope you're enjoying the fine programming we've been giving you there with our last. We have one video here that's got like 130 views, which for us is a lot. And it had something to do with Floyd being a sacrifice. Or apparently, a lot of people thought that it was made up or came from he was a Mason and all of this stuff. You can go check it out. It's kind of interesting stuff. And we just so happen to view it, or not just view, but believe through the oneness concept that we are sacrificed, that the police officer was a sacrifice, and so is George Floyd. So it was in the title, and it coincided with this idealism and somehow got in the algorithm with YouTube, and a whole bunch of people watched the video. And that's pretty cool. And the reason why I bring that up is this is all about information that we're going to be talking about today. And the reason why is Sharon brought up a really interesting thing, and I heard something about it, but we delved into it a little more today. Donald Trump has passed a bill of sorts, or wanting to pass a bill, or what have you, that about the information being held back or secretly removed or not given to people at its fullness by social media such as YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. And somewhere along the line, what we're doing now is kind of videos that talk about these topics from a oneness heart. So we can talk about the topic now because, and if you don't know what the oneness heart means, or Sharon and I, she is Sharon, I am Steve, and you are you, and we are the Oneness Project. And I highly recommend you subscribe to this as well. We're going to have some great topics coming up. So we've expressed it in our previous videos, what oneness is, what the oneness truth is, how it affects us, how it gives us peace. It's what it's all about, being in peace. And now we're going to talk about some topics from this perspective. And one of those topics is this one: information. How is it being subverted? Should it be subverted? Should we have secret information? Should social media choose to say, hey, if you're going to talk about this, about something, we're going to delete it, and all of those things, which is really what Donald Trump was kind of expressing. So Sharon, you had some really good thoughts about this as we were talking about it before the video. So where would you be on this, or how would you look at this?
Okay, I'm going to start from the oneness perspective and then move on from there. As from the oneness perspective, I see myself as a two-part being. I see myself as the one being, okay, the one mind, or you might say the one God that exists. And I also see myself as that one mind taking on the form of flesh, okay? And this form right here is called Sharon. Now, since I am two in one, you might say, all right, I have two perspectives on what you call current event issues. I have a perspective from the oneness, but I also have a perspective from myself in flesh form, living in this earth, on this earth right now. So when it comes to the question of, Mr. Trump's order or executive order on preventing online censorship or social media censorship, I have two opinions. All right, so I'm going to give you my opinion on the oneness first. From a oneness perspective, all is well. That's the first thing to remember. There is nothing out of place. Everything that is happening in the world, in the universe, is in its perfect place. Okay, so there you go. That's easy. Now, from the standpoint of Sharon, the one in the flesh who is living in a society where I now want freedoms. I don't, and nobody does. No one wants to be restricted. Yes, I support the effort to free information, to allow freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Now, as I said to Steve earlier, in my world, if I should have and govern my own world, yes, I would set in place laws, regulations that would allow freedoms, but at the same time, I would restrict it. Okay. For example, maybe since and I look at the world that the one is playing as a game. This is how I view it. So in the game, I would have restrictions that prevented people from cheating. It's just as simple as that. So I would create enemies, okay? And I would prevent people from divulging information to give my enemies clues as to what it is I'm doing. Things like that. This is how the game is played. So at the same time, while we're being censored, or while there's an effort to not censor our freedom of expression, there should be a limit on that. Okay, maybe when it comes to national security expressions. So that is how I feel about the executive order. I think it is a good thing to allow freedom of expression. But at the same time, I think there needs to be certain regulations in that industry to prevent, maybe to prevent the innocent from being abused, children, for example, and also to protect people from for national security reasons. So that's my opinion as Sharon, the one in the flesh. And I already told you what my opinion is from the perspective of just the one. So that's how I see it, Steve.
Yeah. Okay. And I concur. From a oneness perspective, all of this is good, and that's the great thing is that from this is we can have discussions in peace. I have my peace in discussion, whether in disagreement or not. All of the issues that have two sides, no longer will you likely see me as a person going grrr on social media. The oneness concept removes this from me. I don't have an offense towards it. It's more just simply a realization within my mind of what is right, I suppose. This is what we're talking about. What is correct? What is fair, is like people like to say. What Mr. Trump is saying is a very interesting idea, one that I concur with. One, however, I don't think he's completely thought through, or, as I've often seen with Mr. Trump, he knows is not going to go a direction, but is using the concept for his own purposes, which is what we do in politics. That's what politics is about. Taking information, using it for your own purposes. That's what it's about. Free information. So we don't have a conglomerate such as Facebook or YouTube, which are companies, now, as far as he is concerned, would be forced to not restrict information in any way. So if I want to post something about COVID that says COVID's a bunch of bullshit, the doctors don't know what they're talking about, blah, 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 they got to leave it on their website. Whether they agree that that's true or not, we can't go, oh, what if people start following this guy? then a whole bunch of people are going to die. You want to talk about security? This is the black and white, the gray area. Is that security? Because if people believe me and they go out and they die, whose fault is it? It's their fault for believing me, right? This is where the difficult situation is. And yes, I think free information should be that free. And if it was that free, I believe in the human psyche, the human intelligence of the average human being to be able to decipher the accurate information for themselves. I believe that to be true. However, Mr. Trump, I'm sure, is smart enough to know that our universities are funded by corporations who want us to have certain informations. Information is not free. It's not. The information we're getting in our universities, schools, science, the people that are funding these have ulterior motives and they want us to believe a certain thing. If you really want to see it, go to nutrition and what eats and all of a sudden people will say, I don't know, I'm all confused. Milk is bad for me and then this is bad for me. Well, guess who tells you that milk is good for you? The milk people. they have their own scientists, and there's an FDA approval thing that you have to come to that is all part of financed. It's financed. You get a certain scientist to say this, and the FDA agrees, and that all of a sudden is a thing, and you're allowed to say that, and you're allowed to say it's FDA approved. The FDA gets paid by certain corporations to say certain things. It's true because sugar, everybody knows that refined sugar in the industry of science, generally speaking, it's common knowledge enough now that it's horrible for the human body. Our mind has created this concept that sugar is horrible for us. It's funny, I bring this up, now it's in your conscious. The best thing it would have been for me to do is not say anything about it. Because if you weren't believing it, it would never cause any problem.
You fixed that, Steve,
Yeah,
because the truth is nothing is bad for us except we think it is.
Exactly.
But, come on.
But the mind is the mind, and we believe black is black because the mind says so. We can create that differently in our mind if we want to, in this individual consciousness or in the mind as a whole. The whole reality you see in front of you is created by one mind, which is all of us, okay? But this information is not really free. I agree with free information. However, the capitalist concept of economy would never allow it. It'll never happen. So we live in this, and we can realize this and live in this world and know that it is in the United States. Or you can move somewhere else where things are done differently. There's places in the world where Finland, for instance, has made it so information is free. You can go to a library, you can pick up a book. You don't have to bring it back if you don't want to. It's suggested that you do. All education is completely free. And there can be some difficulties about that as well, because if it's a state education, what prevents the state or the country to subvert that information that you're receiving in your mind? Could happen. It's possible as well. But if the information is free and you can get it from anywhere and there's no restrictions on that, I'm agreeing with you. That is the way it really would have to be in order for, and I believe if information was completely free, you could take in any information at any time you wanted to without a cost, without money involved. And that includes a lot of information people would say, no, that should not be. You shouldn't be able to see that on social media or whatever the case may be. You're setting up restrictions right there. I believe if the human psyche, the human individual, the mind, was allowed to take in all information, that information would all lead to what we believe, the oneness of all. We would live in peace and share peace. The reason why I believe that the reason why, and you can historically look at this, that is subverted is because this truth of the oneness, where we are all one and everything is, and we are each, and there's virtually no offense. In fact, any offense would just bring us back to peace again really quick, because we just want to get that peace back again through the oneness understanding, does not sell well. People are not going to make money out of this. You're not going to be more powerful than someone else. It's very difficult to think you're more powerful than someone else in the oneness understanding. In fact, I found that there's no peace in that belief, in believing that. So, do I agree with what you're saying with Donald Trump about the free information? Yes. I intend and believe that one day we will all have this free information and ideal, and wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Trump. Going forward, whatever your motivation is, and saying that information, and even though he didn't say this, he says that that information should not, in a social media type atmosphere, be taken away from people, so they cannot make a right judgment as to what they are thinking. I love that concept. Thank you, Mr. Trump, for that.
And some people are ready for that. Like I said, we're all individuals, and we're all heading towards the same destiny, which at some point I call Christ, to come into our Christness, Christhood, whatever, to become Christ, or to remember fully who we are, that we are the one being. Call that being whatever you want.
Sure.
And so all of this, this is a beautiful paradox, that all that is happening is designed to help propel us towards that end. Okay? So don't pay too much attention to our flesh having, different needs, because every flesh is at a different stage in their progression towards this perfected state, okay, or the Christ state. Now, it just so happens that Sharon, where I am now, and I wasn't always here, I am looking for certain types of information on the internet that I can no longer find easily. Okay? And that's, for me, not good. Okay? I used to be able to type in certain keywords and information comes up right away based on those specific keywords. Now, it's not that easy. I have to dig, and sometimes I just simply cannot find what I'm looking for, although I know it's out there. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, there was a time where those keywords didn't matter to me. Now it matters. And there are people in the world that don't care about certain type of information being censored right now, because they just care about watching movies, or, on whatever it is they watch on social media to entertain themselves. Mm-hmm. And so although I support the move towards freeing information, not having a corporation censor information, at the same time, I keep remembering the story of God placing at the tree of life, which I know now that the tree of life is the tree of simply knowledge. It's information. Mm-hmm. So at that tree, there is what the Genesis called cherubim and a flaming sword guarding it. So there's certain information that God wanted to keep away from Adam, according to that story.
Right.
But the beauty about the rest of the story is that he wanted to guard that information so that Adam doesn't continue in his sinful state. Okay? So that Adam doesn't continue in his forgetful state. Okay, and we know what a sinful or forgetful statement. It just means a state in which Adam doesn't remember who he is. God did not want him to stay in that state. And the way he set up the game is that he put a blockage to the information, okay, to certain type of information so that Adam didn't have access to it. So this is what is going on now. There is a cherubim and a flaming sword of sorts, metaphorically, okay, that is blocking certain information, but it is the fact that they are there that is going to lead Adam to the tree. So that's a crazy paradox. How do you explain that? That the idea that there is that those blockage to information is in place, okay? The cherubim and the flaming sword, so to speak, it's in place to help you move beyond it so that you can somehow, it didn't say it's going to be there forever. It's saying it's guarding it, but some people are going to be able to get through the guards. Okay, now the Bible doesn't talk about that, but you can infer that from the story. Yes, there is a guard there, but the guard is only guarding the information, but the information is there and some people will be able to get through it if you want to. And it just so happens that I'm at a state in my progression to want certain type of information, but some aren't. So it's important to me that Mr. Trump and others like him, and by the way, I have no interest in politics. I don't take sides. I think everybody's trying to do their best as far as they believe it to be. But yeah, I do support his efforts to, free up information.
Yeah, I want to make that clear as well. I'm not supporting or not supporting. In politics itself, I honestly, I believe that it's not going to change whoever you put in there. It's the same regardless. I think there's people above that make decisions far more powerful than Trump or whoever you're going to put in the other. Proof of that is what we're talking about. Universities are paid by people that have more power than either one of than any president. So information is one of the most powerful agents that there are out there, is what we're trying to say, as far as in this flesh and the way it is right now. But as you said, you brought up a very good point here, is we should actually be kind of happy that this information is being subverted the way it is right now, because this information being subverted, for me anyways, when I first started in Christianity, I only knew this one information about this book or set of books or whatever. And if you looked it up online, that information is what was being thrown at you. And I just thought it was true. It had to be true, right? Like, why wouldn't it be true? But something inside of me said otherwise all the way through. And I think that's the beauty of this. You can subvert the information till the day is long. But the fact is, in everybody, we know there's something not right. Something not right. I believe that everyone inside of us that are believing something that is restricting and causing us panic, or creating anxiety in us and all of those things. These are our physical response to say we're believing a lie, because in our true self, we don't live in those things. We may have them, but we don't live in them. And when we live in those things, we reach out for different ways to accomplish not being there. This physical body created a compass with anxieties, depressions, darkness, hatred, anger. All of these things nobody wants to be angry. Nobody wants to be in anxiety. Nobody wants that. Nobody, absolutely nobody. We all want peace. And all of these lies that we like to call lies here in the flesh create an anxiety that drives us to the truth.
I love
What
the
a,
paradoxes. So every time I think about it, it makes me laugh. But you know, another thing is that just came to mind. The fact that there are these barriers to knowledge, okay, meaning the social media censoring, um, it will drive a person to where truth really is, or knowledge really is. It's in us. Everything each of us has access to this thing called mind because it's where we originated. It is the source of who we are. Okay. So the fact that you can't find what you're looking for in terms of information out there, it forces you to go in and question. And once you question, answers are going to come up. And this is how inventions arise. Okay? People like Tesla, people, all these Einstein, they go in and there you go. The information comes out because it's there and it's there for anyone to access. I mean, Einstein could have been you. It didn't matter. The information is there. It just so happened that it came through the body of Mr. Einstein. Okay. So
yeah.
isn't that all wonderful?
Well, and we can take it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm incorrect here. Maybe Donald Trump doesn't see the end to what he's believing. It's just something inside of him is going, this is wrong. Information should be free. He's not saying information should be free. He's saying that those that control it should not restrict it. And at this point, he only sees it in a social media type service because that information is people wanting information and expressing information, and that information should not be subverted because in it comes a truth. Out of it comes a truth. By subverting it, you are preventing a truth from coming out of the people, right?
You're right. And even if he's doing it simply because he wants to put himself in a position to get reelected, okay? An election is coming up. Maybe he wants to utilize social media to get reelected. Okay, that could be very well could be his motivation. But what we're saying from the oneness perspective is that every act leads towards the state of Christhood.
Yeah. Regardless of your motivation, I agree.
Regardless of the motivation, this whole thing is projecting towards a beautiful end. Okay, so don't worry about what people's motivation is for doing what they're doing. They're just going through a motion that they're compelled to. Okay, because the mind is going in a certain direction and it's going to get there. Whichever body it can use, it will use.
Right. So, well, we're almost at our half an hour already.
Oh, are we already?
But from my flesh, I say, Mr. Trump, if your motivation is kind of not, if you're not realizing the end to this, you're putting something out there that's going to be extremely difficult for you. The capitalist ideology does not lend well to free information. But from the oneness perspective, I live in peace and I love to see the contrast. It's a beautiful thing. And it's wonderful not to have to be in it. I can view it from the outside and go, yeah, it's all working out. It's all working out. It's all working out. It's all going good. It's all going the way we need it to. So that's the peace we're talking about. That's really why I wanted to do this video. Is if we're living in anxiety, we're living in stress, and we're living in all of these things, it's usually because we're caught up in these things that are not necessary to be caught up in, because they're all good and they're all for the truth of the oneness that we are, bringing us to that knowledge, every one of us, the Christ-like being that we are. All right. This has been wonderful again. Spread this out. Spread this joy out there if you're watching this all the time. Let people know about this great topic. We'd love to have more of you on, too. If you'd like to come on, we can do this Skype with 3 people. If you oppose us, we'll do that, too. Ooh, opposition. It'd be wonderful. And until we talk to you next time, You guys have a wonderful time. Remain in peace if as much as you possibly can, and enjoy the times when you're not too, because it's not too far away. Have a great day. Lots of love to you.